Hello friends, welcome to the channel Vales&Tales, and in this video we'll be discussing classicism. So far we have completed building Roma, we have completed beat movement and theatre of the absurd. So today is classicism as the classical thing we are going to read. The movement originated in 400 BC, and classicism both as an art style and as the first theory of art was defined by the ancient Greeks, emulated by the Romans, and then continued to appear in various forms across the centuries. So it began in Greece, or it began by the ancient Greeks and it was imitated by the Romans. That is why when we study classicism, we often Greco-Roman period. So we study it under this umbrella term, Greco-Roman period. Now, what is this classicism? Okay, so historically, the periods most associated with classicism are the 5th and 4th centuries BC in Greece, with writers such as Aristotle and Sophocles, the 1st century BC and 1st century AD in Rome, with writers such as Cicero and Virgil. Right. So in Greece, it began with the works of Aristotle and Sophocles, the dramatist, okay, Aristotle, the philosopher. And in Rome, it began late. So the Romans imitated them, okay, emulated them. And we see this in the works of Cicero and, of course, Virgil, right, who has written the epic Aeneid. Now, in the late 17th century French drama, we have seen the revival of classicism, and of course in the 18th century, when we have the new neoclassical period in England, and it was there in France as well. Now, during a period called the Enlightenment, with such writers as Voltaire and Condirect. So it is in France. Now, in its varying formulations, classicism affirms the superiority of balance and rationality over impulse and emotion. This is the characteristic of classical literature or classical theory, that it asks for balance and rationality, and it asks for focus over rationalism than on impulse and emotion, which is the characteristic of romanticism. So romanticism talks about this emotions, that one should focus on emotions, that impulses should be privileged, okay, intuitions should be privileged, man should focus or work according to all these things. But classicism says no, we should be rational, okay, you should possess some balance. Now, it aspires to formal precision, affirms order, and eschews ambiguity, flights of imagination, or lack of resolution. So it doesn't follow all these things, all these notions, the notion of imagination, the lack of resolution or ambiguity. It asks for order, it asks to follow some propriety in life, right? So classicism asserts the importance of wholeness and unity. The work of art coheres without extraneous elements or open-ended conclusions. Now, both ancient Greek and ancient Roman writers stressed restraint and restricted scope, reason reflected in theme and structure, and a unity of purpose and design. So in his Poetics, Aristotle stressed the unities of time, place, and action. Now, perhaps bashing his theory of drama on Sophocles' plays. So his theory is based on the plays of Sophocles. Sophocles, the dramatist, and he has stressed upon the unities of time, place, and action. Now, when we are following a particular set of rules, that is the rule that every drama should have unity of time, unity of place, unity of action. So we are following certain rules. Okay, so there is proprietariness that we are following. So we are not working on intuition, we are not working on imagination, we are working on certain order. So this order is actually the trademark of classical literature, or classical, or if we say that a person possess a classical lifestyle. So this is a classical lifestyle where they follow a balance, where they follow an order, where they follow certain rules. Okay, they are not working on their intuitions, they are not living their life as per their emotions. Okay, so they are rational beings. Now, Aristotle asserted that the action of a place must occur within 24 hours, with all the events taking place in one location and each event causing the next event. So following these restrictions would produce a pleasingly cohesive drama. All the ancients believed that art was a vehicle for communicating the reason and intelligence. So art should communicate reason and intelligence, unlike the absurd theater, which is producing anything or everything. Okay, so classists believe that art is a vehicle to communicate reason and intelligence that permeate the world and human affairs when people act rationally according to a moral percept. Now, classicism in the 20th century can be seen in the literary work. So, what is so this is something which began in 400 BC and continued till now even. So the recent example is of T.S. Eliot, who is a classicist, right? And critical theory of T.S. Eliot, for example, and in the use of mythology in various works, an instance of which is Eugene O'Neill's 1931 trilogy, Morning Becomes Electra, which is based on the Ostia of Aeschylus. Aeschylus is another Greek dramatist, right? Now, who are the representative authors? Of course, Cicero, the Roman philosopher Cicero, and then Pierre Corneille. Then we have T.S. Eliot, who is our modern poet and literary critic, Euripides, Homer, Jean Racine, Virgil. So these all are the representative theorists or representative writers of classicism or classical literature. Now, media adaptations, how these works of these classists like Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, and Homer's Iliad, and then Troy. All these works are being adapted in the popular media, in your movies or in your dramas. Okay, so these are the representative works. Virgil's Aeneid that you have to read. Okay, Andromache. This is a play by Jean Racine. Horace, Iliad. These all are the representative works. Media, and Morning Becomes Electra. Now, what are the themes of classical literature? Of course, they talk about history, right? There is order that they follow in their works, and there is always focus on reason, right, rather than on your impulses or intuitions or passion, right? So this is where the difference comes between classical literature and romantic literature. So there you see there's always passion over everything. So here it is the reason over everything. Okay, now the style, pastoral style they follow, tragedy of course, and epic, right? Now the variation of this movement can be seen in Rome, England, France, Germany. Now, what is the historical context of this classicism? Now, the origin of classicism are traceable to ancient Greeks. Greek history includes the Golden Age, the 5th and 4th centuries BC, is one of the greatest period of cultural development in Western civilization. Ironically, it was often the negative aspects of that history, the events of war, of plague, and of a golden age lost, that became a source of inspiration for Greek classical writers. So, although that age was a golden age, but what caught the attention of the writers or the poets, right, is these sad events, the events of war, plague, how the golden age became how the age lost its charm. Okay, so all these things have influenced the writers, all these things have influenced the philosophy of classicism. Now, compare and contrast, right? So a plague of unknown cause and the Peloponnesian War have a profound effect on the shape of Greek literature. So we have seen time and again that how the culture of that particular times impact literature, right? That's why we say that literature is the expression. Literature is the cultural expression. Okay, literature is not something which is produced in the void. So the plague that impacted many people, it became the source of many writings, right? Now today we see that cancer and AIDS, both of which have been called the plague of the 20th century, so World War I and World War II, have resulted in the entire subgenres of literature and have greatly affected the course of postmodern writing. And Rome's Italian allies go to war to remove Rome from her predominance in the Italian peninsula. Rome gains the upper hand in the dispute by granting full citizenship to the residents of all Italian cities once they affirm their loyalty to Rome. So today we have civil rights movements, so they are talking about internal war here. So all these things you have seen that how disease, all right, like plague, wars, okay, like Peloponnesian War, and in present times also we have already witnessed World War I, World War II. If we talk about India, we have witnessed such a big tragedy, that is partition of India. So all these things see the expression, in literature also. So when classical literature is that literature which follow a particular order, right, where there is focus on rationality rather than on impulse, and which is not following the theme called go with the flow. It is not following the theme go with the flow, it is actually following a particular order. So this is what classicism is. Now T.S. Eliot is a classical writer of the 20th century, and we have Aristotle, we have Euripides, we have Sophocles who have written in Greek, and we have Virgil who have written in Rome. So this is all about classicism. And when you read classicism, you have to keep in mind romanticism, because classicism and romanticism are two exactly different things. And it is not that the classical literature which was produced in the 440 BC stopped there then and there only. No, it continued 400 BC. It continued till today also, as we have seen in the works of E.S. Eliot, as we have seen in the works of Eugene O'Neill's trilogy, Morning Becomes Electra. So any literature that follows order, any literature that follows a particular set of rules, any literature that focuses on rationality, that focuses on balance, is classical literature. And you can compare it with the absurd literature as well, where we are following no notion, we are following no rule, where we are producing just whatever the writer wants to produce. So it's not like that the society was very balanced at that time, that's why they are producing this kind of literature, they were following order. No, there were wars, there were disease, right? But still their representation was close to life. And modern day corruption has become too much that even the literature which comes, some of the literature which comes in modern or postmodern age, is termed as absurd literature. Okay, so this is all about classicism, and in the next video we will read another movement. Thank you so much.